Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Rakhi Gupta. Welcome to my module on managing human resource or just human resource management. Before I go down deep into the next topic, I would just like to recapitalize as to what we did in the last one. We spoke about something related with industrial accidents and VRS. So industrial accidents, we understand what are they. They are the kind of mishappenings. Then we also delve into the various causes of industrial accidents and how we can actually avoid them. And then I also gave you the concept of the golden handshake, that is the voluntary retirement scheme. Now today what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about another very important topic, that is on Labour Codes 2020. Again, I would like to reiterate myself that there is a different subject of labor laws and labor legislation. But I thought of giving you a bird's eye view of these labor codes also. So let's go and find out deep about them. My dear friends, we know that in any country, welfare and labor welfare rather means a lot, because here labor welfare, when we talk about it, refers to the efforts on the part of the employers to improve the existing industrial system in such a manner that the conditions of employment in their organization or in their factories, it becomes good, and it is for the welfare of the people. So naturally, when we have any kind of welfare aspect, so welfare help us in keeping the morale and motivation of the employees very high, and so that we are able to retain the top talent in the organization for longer durations. So here we see that labor welfare actually aims at providing a better and a healthy life to the workers. It aims to make the workers happy and contented and satisfied. And when we have those labor welfare, we actually include various facilities, the services, the amenities that are provided to the workers. And why are we actually doing it? We are actually doing it for the purpose of having a good health, or maybe maintaining that social life and economic improvement, or maybe increasing for the purpose of increasing productivity, and of course to provide certain benefits to the workers. So we cannot bypass the importance of labor welfare. So labor welfare more or less is the voluntary efforts that are made by the employer to provide better conditions of employment in their own industry. Now, we know that there are a number of labor laws which were enacted in India, and they were being followed by the lot of industries also and organizations also. But because of the rapid change in the economic landscape, there is a concept of labor law revolution, and this labor law revolution has come in the form of Labor Codes 2020. So of course, India's economic landscape has been undergoing a significant transformation because of those technological advancement, because of the globalization, and with the purpose of providing better facilities to the people, making it much more easier to understand and to implement. The Parliament enacted number of labor codes in the year 2020, basically in the month of September, and it was as a part of a measure to consolidate the multitude of labor laws in the country. Because there were number of labor laws which are there. At times people they understand, at times people they implement, at times people they do not implement. So just to have that kind of ease and make it more easy for everyone to understand, these laws have been actually enacted. And it says that since these labor laws or labor reforms or labor codes, they are in the concurrent list, so both the parliament and the state legislatures, they have the power to enact these laws. And as per the central government, before the new labor codes were passed, there were almost more than 40 central laws and more than 100 state laws on labor and related matters, they were existing. So it was actually in the second National Commission on Labor 2002 that recommended the central labor laws should be integrated into groups like industrial relation, wages, social security, safety and welfare and working condition. So this was actually recommended by the commission because the existing laws, they are hectic, they are complex, and they are actually at times they become inconsistent also. So the commission suggested the simplification of these labor codes for the sake of transparency and with the sake of uniformity. So what happened that in the year 2019, the central government introduced 4 bills on labor codes to consolidate almost 29 central laws, and these are basically the codes on wages, industrial relations, legislation, social security, and occupational safety, health, and working condition codes. So while these codes they were passed in 2019, there are other bills which were referred to a standing committee on labor. So what we see is, like as I told you, there were more than 44 existing central laws, and there are 4 major laws that have been actually enacted. So these 4 major laws that we are going to talk about, or the codes that we are going to talk about, it is again for the purpose of simplification and uniformity, and of course it is for the benefit of the workers who are working in the various organizations. With the introduction of the new labor codes, India aims to strike a balance between enhancing labor market flexibility and improving workers' rights and welfare. So this balance has a very, very serious implications for both the domestic and foreign businesses. We know that any kind of labor codes or rules which are brought out, they are for the purpose of providing benefit to the people. So naturally these rules or labor codes bills, they are actually notified, and they are all according to the Labor Ministry. And we know that under the constitution, as I told you, that the labor is a subject which is in the concurrent list. So both the state and the central, they have the power to enact these laws. So now let's find out that what is the benefit of these labor codes are. Definitely there is a minimum guarantee of the wages. There's a formal contract. The employers, they issue formal appointment letters now also, improving their job security. Social security for gig workers. Now this may be a new word for you, but gig workers, they are the people who actually work on a freelancing basis, and they earn their livelihood. So these new codes, they extend to benefit the gig workers at large, and we are all aware about the various gig workers who are working in the form of Zomato or maybe Swiggy. So these workers, they are actually known as the gig workers, and there's a heterogeneous group of gig workers which are scattered across the entire country. So the aim, one of the aim is to provide benefit to them also, and to give equal benefits for long-term workers. Now there's a new concept of fixed-term employees, which is a part of this labor codes, and of course to expand the leave entitlements and to give broader and proper provident fund coverage to the people, not just the specified sectors. So now on screen you can see that these are the 4 new labor codes: Industrial Relation Code 2020, Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code 2020, Social Security Code 2020, and Code on Wages 2013. So let's take each one of them at length now. So the first one that you see on the screen is all related with the Industrial Relation Code 2020. So like as you can see that here this IR code, we can call it IR code 2020, it says that the Industrial Employment Act 1946 had made it mandatory for employers of industrial establishment with more or 100 workers to define the condition of employment and the rules for the conduct of the workmen by the way of standing orders. So however, under the new code, the minimum number of workers employed for an establishment to have standing orders has been raised to 300. So prior it was 100, so now it has been raised to 300, and with the increased threshold, it becomes more flexible and easier to hire and fire, thus leading to increased employment accordingly to the government. Now, this code also has something related with Industrial Dispute Act of 1947. If you remember, we have been talking continuously about the Industrial Dispute Act of 1947. So this, there are certain concerns over this also, that in the case of this Dispute Act, the codes are also concerned that we are more concerned with the people. So here it says that Industrial Dispute Act 1947 and the Trade Union Act of 1926, it has been actually merged, and it says that it introduces a new condition for accepting a legal strike. So strike is a part of the Industrial Dispute Act, and employees are basically prohibited from going on a strike without giving a 60 days notice. For example, employees are also prohibited from going on strike during the pendency of any proceedings, or they should also not go up on a strike before 60 days are completed after the tribunal's proceeding. So the new code also proposes the setting up of a reskilling fund or a training retrench workers with the contribution from the employer or an equal amount of 15 days last salary drawn by the worker. So here again in the case of IR, we see that the employee salary has gone up to 18,000 rupees, will fall under the category of a worker now, and anyone who's up to the salary of 18,000. Then there's a concept of fixed term employment that now employer can keep fixed term employees, which is known as FTE, for a specific duration, and retrenchment compensation not to be paid. Then the employees can, and an industrial raise dispute with the employer within the limit of not only 2 years but instead of 3 years. Now it has been within 2 years. So again, this dispute is all related to the Industrial Dispute Act of 1947. Then the Trade Union Act of 1926. So here the main feature is that the trade unions have to give notice of 14 days before going on a strike. Then establishment with less than 300 workers can lay off, retrench or close without government approval. Earlier this limit was only of 100 people. So again, the changes have been brought about here. Then the number of members in the grievance redressal committee has been increased from 6 to 10. So naturally there are more people in the committee to go deep down and find out the various aspects of the grievances. Then here the definition of appropriate government has been modified by including the establishment of the contractors, and contractor appropriate government shall be of the establishment where the contract labor has been deployed. So more or less we find that we were talking about the gig workers also. So gig workers, they also can be employed by these contractors. So there are basically different schemes which have been launched under this, and there are different chapters also and different modules also, which tells us about the various other sections. So probably there are 104 section in 14 chapters and 3 schedules. So here, before I proceed with the another one, I would also like to put it across to you that in the case of new IR code, naturally, as I told you that there is a prohibition of going on a strike. They are supposed to give the notice, around 60 days notice has to be given. The grievance committee members have been increased from 6 to 10, so on and so forth. And it says that here in smaller establishments also employers have been given complete flexibility in terms of hiring and firing the services of the workers. And at times the condition for legal strike has been made more stringent in that time frame, that the notice has to be given by the workers before they go on for a legal strike. And of course, as I told you, that there is a reskilling fund which is arbitrarily framed, and there is no clarity on where the whole fund would come from. So that is the kind of a dilemma which is still hovering related to the IR Code 2020. Now, the next code is all related with the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code 2020. And these, again, as you can see, there are number of acts which have been compiled together. Right from the Factories Act of 1948, I have been continuously talking about the Factories Act of 1948, that it has mainly the provisions of health, welfare and safety provisions are part of it. So Mines Act 1951, Dock Workers Welfare Act 1986, the Building and Workers Condition of Service Act 1996, the Plantation Labor Act 1951, the Contract Labor 1970, the Interstate Migrant Workmen Regulation of Employment and Condition of Service Act 1979, the Working Journalist and Other Newspaper Employees Condition of Service and Miscellaneous Provision 1955 Act, the Working Journalist Fixation of Rates of Wages Act 1958, the Motor Transport Workers Act 1961, the Sales Promotion Employees Condition of Service Act of 1976, the Beedi and Cigar Workers Condition of Employment 1966, the Cine Workers and Cinema Theatres Workers Act 1981. So under this Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code to 2020, this code actually expands the definition of a factory as a premises where at least 20 workers for a process with power and 40 workers for a process without the power. The code actually removes the manpower limit on hazardous working condition and makes the application more obligatory for the contractors recruiting 50 or more than workers. The code fixes the daily work hours limit to the maximum of 8 hours. This code also empowers women to be employed in all kind of establishment and at nights between 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. subject to their consent and safety. So this code also encourages the formalization in employment. The employer is required to issue the appointment letter. This code actually defines an interstate migrant worker as someone who has come from one state and received employment in another and earns up to rupees 18,000 per month. So the code has dropped off the earlier provisions of temporary accommodation for workers in the work site, and this code also proposes a journey allowances which is now being given to the workers. So this, as you see that these were the things I was just discussing, that the codes, this code actually expands the definition of the factory, and naturally according to this code, a lot of autonomy is being given to the workers in terms of their working hours. For example, the working hours have been fixed to 8 hours. The consent of the females, they have to be taken for the night shift. Again, keeping in mind their safety provisions also, and lot of other provisions have been made. So anybody who's earning money up to 18,000 rupees would be regarded as a worker. And as I told you that this has actually removed the limit on hazardous working conditions. So now the contractors, they have a right to recruit more than 50 workers. So here OSH code provides for the constitution of a National Occupational Safety and Health Advisory Board by the central government, which shall be empowered to advise the central government for the benefit of the people. So this is all about the occupational code that we had. Now, moving on to the next one, we go ahead with the Social Security Code. Now, in the case of Social Security Code, now this is again a very important code. We know that on this Social Security Code, as we can see, there are almost 9 acts which have been combined under one, and it says that the EPF and MP Act 1952, the ESI Act 1948, that is Employee State Insurance Act, the Maternity Act 1961, which basically provides the provisions for maternity to the female. This act used to cover all those provisions. Then the Building and Other Construction Workers Cess Act 1996, the Payment of Gratuity Act of 1972. My dear friends, gratuity is nothing but it's just a kind of a reward that the company used to give for the good work that the people have done in their organization for a number of years. So this is also a part of the Social Security Code. The Employees Exchange or Compulsory Notification of the Vacancies Act of 1959, the Cine Workers Welfare Fund Act of 1881, the Organized Workers Social Security Act of 2008, and Employees Compensation Act or Workers Compensation Act of 1923, which was very, very common, and it encapsulates the entire provisions related with the compensation related with the industrial accident if at any point there used to be any. So according to this Social Security Code, the definition of employees has been widened to include interstate migrant workers, the construction workers, the film industry workers, and the platform workers. Here in this act, my dear friends, the gratuity period for working journalists has been reduced from 5 years to 3 years. If you can see here, the lot of acts have been clubbed together, and the code also talks about the setting up of the Social Security Fund for the unorganized workers, platform workers, and the gig workers. And there's always a provision for the central government to decrease or defer the employers or employees' contribution towards the provident fund. or ESI for up to 3 months in the event of a pandemic or national disaster on an epidemic. So ESI Act was Employee State Insurance Act, which is quite mentioned here in the year of, which is of the year 1948. So this code also proposes the establishment of a national security, social security board for recommendation to the central government for the formulation of the schemes for the various sections of the unorganized, gig and platform workers. So if you remember, my dear friends, in the beginning of this session where I talked about that what are the benefits of these reforms, so one of the biggest benefit that these reforms they bring, it is for the people from the unorganized sector and the gig workers. So here the key changes, as I told you, just discussed few of them. Apart from that, we know that there's a definition of social security which has been given. Now the interstate migrant workers, they can also come. The wage rates have been revised. Now the audiovisual introduction of the definition of audiovisual production has been given in the case of the social security code. So this we see that the social security code is bringing lot of benefit to the people at large. So basically this code is a code to amend and consolidate the laws which are related to the social security, and with the goal to extend the social security to all the kinds of employees. That's what it is more important. So as I told you that social security code, for example, all the gig workers and people from the unorganized sector, they can be a part of it. So ideally lot of changes have taken place also, and there is a change in the registration also for the workers, the contribution, and there is a kind of a fund also that would be made up. So naturally, as I told you, the objective of the code of social security code 2020 is to consolidate, or the main objective is to change and consolidate the existing labor laws relating to social security. So of course trying to give maximum benefit to the employees and the workers irrespective of the position they belong to. So now here we have the unorganized sector also, which is a part of this, and the code on this itself within itself brings the self-employed workers, home workers, wage workers, migrant workers, the workers in the unorganized sectors, platforms for the purpose of the security schemes. And these are security schemes, they would be including life insurance or maybe the disability insurance, health and maternity benefits and others. Because we talked about, we had the this Maternity Benefit Act of 1961 also. So these maternity benefit would be a part of this only. So here in this Code of Social Security 2020 also, it includes that there would be a central board of trustees of Employees Provident Fund, which would be constituted almost under Section 4, and the Employee State Insurance Corporation constituted under Section 5, and the National Social Security Board for the unorganized workers constituted under Section 6, and the State Unorganized Workers Social Security Board constituted under Section 6, the State Building and Other Construction Workers Welfare Boards constituted under Section 7, and any other organization which is there for this special purpose would be declared to be the social security organization by the central government, and of course then they would be entitled to get lot of benefit also. And however, we know that there would be a kind of Central Provident Fund Commissioner would also be a part of this, who would be taking care of the entire social security measures. So these social security measures, as we told you, that the main focus is on the gig workers, the main focus is on the unorganized sector. So definitely a lot of changes have been brought about in the case, and as I told you that then, since it encapsulates all these things, whether it is all gratuity, maternity benefits or compensation, Workers' Compensation Act of 1923, so on and so forth, so they will all be a part of or under this only. And here also the gratuity shall be payable on the termination of the contract period under the fixed term employment. So these codes, they bring in a new word which is known as the fixed term employment, and then they are entitled to get gratuity. Then every woman entitled to maternity benefit shall be entitled to receive a medical bonus also of 3,500, and whose upper limit can be amended by the central government. So naturally, this central government has supreme powers of bringing about the changes in the social security code also. So I hope this would give you a gist of the social security code. Another one, the last, most probably the last code is all related with the code on wages 2019. So here if you see on the screen, there are basically 4 codes, which is the Payment of the Wages Act of 1936 and Minimum Wages Act 1948, the Payment of Bonus Act 1965, the Equal Remuneration Act of 1976. So, this Code on Wages 2019 is basically a law that consolidates and amends the laws related to wages, bonuses and other related matters. And my dear friends, it was actually notified on 8th August 2019 and was introduced in the Lok Sabha on 23rd July 2019, and it was passed on 30th July 2019. It was then again passed by the Raj Sabha on 2nd August 2019. So, the main provisions on the Code of Wages 2019 is basically related with the universal minimum wages there, and here it says that the code provides for the universal minimum wage for all the employees in the organized and unorganized sector. There would be some timely payment of the wages that have to be paid on time to all the employees regardless of the wage ceilings or the industrial sector. Then one of the striking feature of this code is that all the employers, they are required to issue wage slips. So, wage slips, they have to be issued by the employers to the employees, the bonus. All those employees who have worked at least 30 days in a year and they can earn a monthly wage below a certain amount are entitled for the annual bonus. And of course, it says that no kind of discrimination has to be done on the basis of the gender. And there are strict penalties which this code provides for any kind of employer offences ranging from 10,000 to 1 lakh rupees. So, this is one of the great step that has been taken. And basically in there, as I told you, that it includes all those things related with the minimum wages and the universal minimum wage, which is a part of it. And now it excludes any bonus, but again people who have worked in the organization for a certain period of time, they are entitled for the bonus. All kind of it excludes the conveyance allowances, HRA, overtime, commission. But again, apart from that, the government has actually implemented the other important aspects. For example, it deals with the as I told you, deals with the salary, overtime, bonus, minimum wages. Then again, these things, they are part of it. And then the central government sets a national floor rate for wages. So, and everyone is entitled for a minimum wage. The working hours have been set 8 hours for the people, and naturally every employer has to provide with the slip, the wage slip to the workers. So, they have a kind of a proof, and above all there should not be any kind of gender discrimination that should be done by the employer. In case if there is done, if there is any violation of the provisions of this, then naturally there are strict penalties. And then it says that employees with wages less than the minimum amount, they are entitled to a bonus not less than 8.33 and not more than the 20% of the average one. And the last one is on the new wage code of 2022, and this says that basic salary component will be increased where the provident fund will be calculated, and this implies the provident fund for employees would increase and the enhanced salary will be decreased. So, provident fund is like a kind of a social security. So, people feel that okay, at the time of retirement they would be getting a lump sum amount. Then employees may have to work for 12 hours a day or maybe 48 hours a week, working 4 days a week, or maybe a kind of full and final settlement of wages and dues have to be done, and employees may get 3 weeks off, but they have to work not more than 48 hours. So, this was all about the new wage code of 2022. So, it says that again lot of security has been being provided to the female people, and there the number of overtime has been increased from 50 to 125. So, people are entitled to get more money. Employees would not be able to get more than 50% of their salary in the form of allowances. 30 years in a year government departments. The maternity leaves of female will increase to 26 weeks, and also companies cannot place them on the night shift. This is very important because this is important from the point of their safety of the females, and labor forces will get leave every 180 days instead of 240 days. So, but in India, full and final payment is credited after 45 days of the company in the existing company. So, my dear friends, these were the labor codes of 2020, but however, they have not been implemented as of now. They would be done in probably in the year 2025. But what I can say is that so there were so many other labor laws which were enacted at the central level. They all have been merged together under the main 4 heads, and the main purpose of providing these having these labor codes is to provide some kind of ease to the people, especially to the unorganized segment. The gig people, they have been brought into this, and taking into cognizance the various aspects of the different codes which I just discussed with you. There is much more to go deep down in these codes, but because of the paucity of time and the limit that I have, I just wanted to give you the bird's eye view that which are the acts which will fall under respective codes. So, I am sure all those people who are from the unorganized sector also, or the gig workers, it will be bringing a big smile on their face, because these codes, they aim at making the other labor codes which were very hectic, difficult to implement. These codes are much more simple to implement, and they will be bringing an array of benefits to all of them. So, whether it is the male, the female, or people from organized or from the unorganized sector. And I hope that you have understood the concepts of these labor codes, and if you want to explore more, you can search it. Thank you so much for watching my video on the labor codes. Thank you so much, and stay tuned for the next new topic.